This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Entertaining and informative
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. With me is our co-host, Jesse Garcia, the Vice Chair of the State Republican Party and the County Chair of the Suffolk Party. Eric Levine, noted attorney, commentator, and essayist. And we're honored and privileged indeed to have one of my favorite people in the world and one of my favorite United States Senators, Ted Budd of the great state of North Carolina. Senator Budd is on the Armed Services Committee, Committee on Commerce, Entrepreneurship and Small Business. A wonderful man, a businessman, a real leader in the United States Senate, just as he was in the House of Representatives. Senator, what a great pleasure it is to have you on our show.
Judge, it's an honor as always to be with you. The only thing better would be there in person, but thanks for having me, and thanks to Eric and Jesse as well.
Good. So we're going to turn you over to Eric first, and then over to Jesse. And if these two gentlemen will be kind enough, they'll give me a couple of minutes to talk to you as well.
Well, we'll try not to be so kind. That's all I can say. Anyway, Ted, thanks for joining us. I have to echo Richard's words. I mean, it's hard to imagine somebody as decent and kind and good as Ted Budd, and who's also a United States Senator and elected official. Those things generally tend not to meld, but Ted, you seem to have been able to do that. So we're honored to have you on the show.
Well, great to be here. You got to be just mean enough to win these things, but I guess nice enough for people to like you. So somehow we've struck the balance, at least for now.
Nice and tough. Nice and tough. There you go. So I want to start by talking about what's going on in Gaza. But first I want to juxtapose it to what just happened this past week. So this was the 80th anniversary of Japan surrendering to the United States. To much fanfare, Japanese representatives came out to the USS Missouri off the coast of Japan and surrendered only after the United States bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki with a nuclear weapon. After the United States clearly and utterly obliterated their enemy and won the war. Before then, Japan had no designs on surrendering. I want to compare that to what's going on in Gaza. Of course, Hamas attacked on October 7th. They started the war. They committed the worst atrocities against Jews since the Holocaust. And yet, ever since October 8th, there always seems to be this pressure on the Israelis to stop, for the Israelis to not win, to save Hamas. I don't understand the juxtaposition or the comparison as to why that would be the case. The Israelis are now, Netanyahu has now ordered that the IDF attack Gaza City, which is the last stronghold of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. That's where the remaining hostages are. That's where the remaining vestiges of Hamas is. And yet the whole world is going crazy, setting their hair on fire, lying about what the Israelis are doing there, lying about a genocide, lying about a famine, lying about Israeli tactics, lying about Israeli goals. So first, I want to get your sense of what is it what's your view of Netanyahu's strategy of taking Gaza City in an effort to obliterate Hamas, and what, if any, explanation do you think explains the juxtaposition of why there was such great fanfare over the American victory in Japan and the surrender in the Missouri, and the hand-wringing and the hair on fire with the Israelis trying to win in Gaza?
Since you started with Japan and the remembering the 80 years, It's very personal. I come from a small rural county in North Carolina. It's Davie County. It's the home of Thomas Farabee, who was the bombardier on board Enola Gay, which dropped one of the two the atom bombs. And so even a small county, has great reverence for the end of the war and how it ended. And we all wish we didn't have to do that. But the argument was that it ultimately saved lives. Yes, it was aggressive. Yes, it was severe. But the Japanese at that point were so locked in that there was no other way other than total annihilation and defeat to get them to end the war. And we see you can draw a parallel to Gaza and what's happening with Hamas. We've seen repeated lies. Look, I've gone over there to negotiate to get the hostages home, and thank goodness we have Keith Siegel home. Aviva was home. Two of the hostages. Keith was from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So this became very personal very quickly. We want Ite Chin and Omer Nutra home. We don't believe that they are alive, but we need them home still. And and there are others that are still being held hostage. So it's just a cruel, it is a cruel organization of Hamas that will lie and cheat and steal and do anything, including to the detriment of their own people. So they must be completely decimated. Now, if they change their mind, if they said, look, we'll lay down our arms, and if that were to happen, then there would be peace in the region. If Israel were, on the other hand, they're not going to do this, but if they were to lay down their arms, it would be the end of Israel. And, of course, that would be Hamas's goal. And we can't let that happen. So if you want peace in the region, the way Hamas has prosecuted their side of the battle this far, they have to be completely eliminated. They are not honest actors. They're not there for the good of their own people, the Palestinians in the region, and they need to be rooted out. And that is exactly what Netanyahu is doing. I think he wishes there was another way and that it was easier, but he's willing to take his lumps politically. He's willing to be misunderstood by many in the world. And, the IDF has just been phenomenal in this. And getting to the root of it, many months ago with Operation Midnight Hammer, I think that stopped a lot of the problem emanating from Iran. But, of course, there's still the world's largest state sponsor of terror. So, look, we're getting at this from both ends, whether it's the proxies like Hamas or in Lebanon with Hezbollah. But these people are not, you can't negotiate with them. We've said a long time ago, you can't negotiate with terrorists. And Netanyahu's not doing that. And President Trump, by the way, he's not doing that either.
So I guess another connection we can make between what's going on in Gaza and World War II, a lot of people don't realize. Hamas, of course, is an ideological descendant of the Muslim Brotherhood, which was founded in Egypt in the 1920s. And it's a national socialist movement. National socialists, for people who don't know, are Nazis. That's where the word Nazi comes from, national socialists. So the Israelis are actually literally fighting Nazis, much like we were fighting during the Second World War. And just to point of personal privilege, you talk about how personal this was. My father was training for the invasion of Japan when Truman ordered the dropping of the bomb. So Harry Truman saved my father's life along with probably another 1 million Americans. So hats off to him. But I just want to come back to Hamas for 1 second, and the point you were making about how horrific they are. The Israelis have offered, as you point out, the opportunity for Hamas to surrender and give up the hostages and to end the siege of Gaza, but they have said no to date. Do you have any sense as to whether or not I've heard that there are more negotiations going on. There's another. The Trump administration has made an offer for another ceasefire arrangement. Can you shed any light on that? Have you heard any more about that?
Well, our MO, and I believe this of the Israeli, is always going to show good faith, willingness to negotiate all the way to the 11th hour. But we're also very street smart, and we're wise to how Hamas is going to handle this. We don't believe them to be good faith actors. But even without reciprocity, we're still going to give them the opportunity. But we're going to be on guard as if it's not well received. So I think that's the approach from the Trump administration and from the Netanyahu administration as well.
So I want to just shift gears for a second to your home state of North Carolina. Last year there was a horrific flood, rains that caused devastation to the western part of North Carolina. I was wondering if you can give us a status report as to how the recovery was going. And also, if you could shed some light, do you see any difference between the way FEMA operated under the prior Biden administration and the current Trump administration?
Oh, absolutely. And thanks for remembering this. September 27th will be the date of remembrance for us when you saw a tremendous, there used to be a statement which was rent at the beach and buy in the mountains. And of course, we have both in North Carolina, kind of like you do a little bit in New York, lower Appalachians. But it came up from the Gulf and just dumped, in some places, 30, maybe 40 inches of water in some instances. It concentrated into the riverbeds and then it was a geological event. Mountains slid, half of mountains would slide off. Roads were gone. 108 people died. And it was horrific. Tremendous amount of debris. And it came absolutely to a standstill. The private sector, groups like Samaritan's Purse, individuals that were maybe helicopter hobbyists around the country flew in, began to help, Red Cross. So they were the best. And then you would see National Guard was there. The 101st, 82nd Airborne was there. So grateful to them. But when it came to former Governor Cooper, and this is something I'll jump off for a second, Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who had lots of hurricanes and dealt with them well as a governor before he was senator. He said, Ted, always know that FEMA is only as good as your governor. And we just saw bureaucratic delay after bureaucratic delay when it came to former Governor Cooper. And by the way, now he's running for U.S. Senate in North Carolina. So I saw when President Trump came into office, his first visit was to Western North Carolina. We saw them cut through a lot of red tape. Look, we still got a lot of work to do out there, some debris still to remove, some roads and bridges to rebuild. But I had a guy who runs a heavy equipment company call me yesterday and said, Ted, thank you for your work. We're getting a lot done out there. There's still more work to do, but we're getting a lot done. And I'm grateful. This man in a small business in Western North Carolina is grateful for President Trump's leadership. So yes, to answer your question, very different than it was before.
Yes, I mean, under the rubric of there but for the grace of God go I, my daughter lived in Asheville and moved about a month before the storm. Came back to the mountains in New York. But, we wish the people of Asheville and Western North Carolina well, and we hope that there's a complete recovery of the region, and glad that no more lives were being lost.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let's just shift to D.C. for 1 second. There's been a serious problem of getting some of President Trump's nominees confirmed, and there's talk amongst Republicans of changing the process to get some of these people confirmed. Can you speak to what some of the strategies might be to work around Democratic obstruction?
If you go back all the way to Bush administration number 1, you can go back even further into Reagan. Most of the appointments, when they were nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate, those confirmations were done on the Senate floor either in group votes or en bloc, or they were done with a unanimous consent or a voice vote, which moves things through very quickly. It minimizes procedural hurdles. And what the Democrats have done is they have taken the bulk of nominations passing in the easy way, and they have reduced that to absolutely zero. So everything has to be done with procedural votes, cloture votes. And if you take 1,200 nominees and you multiply that by a maximum of 4 total votes per nominee, that's 4,800 votes. And if you get about 20 per week, that puts you out into infinity in the future as far as the Senate is concerned. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's all because of a Trump resistance model rather than a working on behalf of one's own constituents. And these are non-controversial nominees. So the goal is to get the Senate back to where it has functioned before. And we're seeing that. We're moving towards changing some rules so the Senate functions better than it did before Chuck Schumer was in place, and voting for some of these in block. If they come out of committees, or you've got, I think right now we have maybe 140, give or take, nominees that are backlogged, we can take these 140 and vote them out in just a handful of votes. And the will of the people gets done, but with less bureaucratic and obstruction from the Democrats.
Well said, Senator. Jesse, questions for the Senator.
Senator Budd, thank you so much for joining us. And I can understand, thank you. I can understand why you're so well regarded by my two, our anchor and my other amigo, as we are here. It's because you're someone who you're a man of faith, and I think that's what more of our elected officials need to be, and what is the difference between Republicans in leadership positions and those from another party is that we are grounded in faith. And I want to thank you for your service to our country, and of course. Also, I've noticed that you're a member of law enforcement, and just stay a little bit with D.C., but maybe a little bit further out. We've over the weekend, we've seen a lot of attacks on law enforcement officers, whether it be ICE officers in L.A., ICE officers and headquarters in Portland just over the past weekend, where it seems that they have doubled down on their sanctuary policies and such. I'm just wondering, where is the Senate or in cooperation with the administration to protect these officers and protect all law enforcement? And this is a pet peeve of mine, Senator. You know, it's amazing that the Democrats were able to use facial recognition to arrest and identify January 6th individuals, but not able to use the same technologies in 2020 during the riots in our urban cities, or certainly at our protests just recently in Los Angeles and in Portland.
You know, it's heartbreaking what they are supporting. The Democrats used to be somebody you could have some reasonable collaboration with, but right now we're seeing them supporting pro-crime, pro-illegal immigration, and a lot of that is human trafficking. It's a lot of cartel activity, so pro-cartel, pro-burning cities. It's absolutely sad, the stuff that they are doubling down on, because of the fact that they resist the policies of Donald J. Trump and the policies of the Republican Party. Our policies are better for people. They're better for cities. They're not just rural policies. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you're urban or rural. Our policies will make your life better and more prosperous and more safe. So the stuff that the Democrats are after, really, it causes cities to implode. It causes housing values to drop. I mean, it hurts people. So I have a hard time understanding how they think they're going to win elections on this. But, as far as supporting law enforcement, that's something that's been consistently part of my policies. I've never been in law enforcement myself. I own an indoor shooting range in North Carolina. My first customer was a local police force. And the training captain came to me and said, I want to, use your range. And I asked, really, you want me to open my range and to the public? He said, yeah, because you need to never underestimate the need of the public to have a safe place to shoot. So whether it's policy-wise here in Washington or whether it's my own business, we're supporting the Second Amendment and helping our communities responsibly enjoy firearms.
Senator, we only have a couple of minutes. I know you have a heart out. I just want to get your thoughts on the recent events where the administration took out that Venezuelan cartel drug ship.
Great, Judge, what great footage to show. They did that for multiple reasons. One, they said, don't do this again. Take us very seriously. I hope that the message is heard loud and clear around the world that the United States will not tolerate narco-terrorism. And they're seeing that. And if it's Trinidad Aragua, I believe, they were trafficking to the U.S. It was confirmed, and hopefully that prevents ones from happening, and it just shows in a very visceral way that we take stability in the U.S., safety in the U.S., anti-drug, anti-cartel, anti-narcotics very, very seriously. So I think that was a brilliant move, and it was well vetted, and they did the exact right thing.
I think, Senator, there's going to come a time we're going to have to deal with Maduro and Venezuela because we can't allow that state to be a narco-terrorist state.
No, I mean, they're saying there's connections between TDA and Maduro. So that's a lot of dark forces there. And again, our goal is to protect the U.S., and we certainly did that with the U.S. Navy. So God bless them, and I'm grateful for those protecting our shores.
Well, we know that Iran and Hezbollah is also in Venezuela as well. So
there really is
influences from the back doors.
Yeah, this really is an international axis of evil working against the United States of America and Western civilization.
Oh, I see it. I mean, I saw the cartels when I was in South America last year. And look, this is right in our back door. We need to make sure we're not just looking east and west. And Eric, you and I have had numerous conversations about issues in the Middle East, but we need to be looking to our south. We need to be looking to the Arctic. And because China, through their Belt and Road Initiative, will come in our back door as well. They'll come in under stated innocent purposes, but there's a malevolent purpose always behind it.
Well, Senator, on behalf of Chairman Garcia, Eric Levine, and myself, it's been absolutely delightful having you on the show. We hope to bring you back when you have time to come back on the show and keep us updated on things going on in Washington important to the American people. I want to say you're a great person. You're a great United States Senator. God bless you and your family, and we value your friendship and your leadership. Thank you, Senator, for being on the show.
Well, Judge, Eric, Jesse, thank you all so much for having me. God bless, and have a great end of the week.
Thanks, Ted. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, we're just finishing up our first segment with Senator Ted Budd, a great senator from North Carolina, a distinguished gentleman, a leader of Congress, both first in the House and now in the United States Senate. And we'll be taking a break. Please stay with us. We'll be back in but a few moments with more important conversation on Let the Record Show. Please stay.
Let the Record Show with Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.